Why Sheikh Hamdan left his wife without saying a word. He did not fight. He did not argue. He did not sit down and explain himself. He just left. No big announcement, no public statement, no goodbye. One day he was there, and the next day he was not. And the woman he left behind was standing in a palace, surrounded by everything money could buy, trying to understand how a man who had everything could just walk away without saying a single word. That woman was his wife. And this is the story of why Sheikh Hamdan, the crown prince of Dubai, left without looking back. Most people who follow Fazza see the highlight reel, the falcon on his arm, the horse beneath him, the desert sky behind him, the poems that stop you mid scroll because they feel like they were written just for you. He looks like a man who has it all figured out, a man in control, a man at peace with his life and his place in the world. But that image, as beautiful as it is just the surface. Underneath it is a story that is much more complicated, much more painful, and much more human than anything you will ever see on his Instagram's page. To understand why he left, you have to go back to the beginning, back to before the marriage, back to when Hamdan was a younger man, still figuring out who he was, and he fell in love. Not a royal love, not an arranged love, just real, honest, quiet love, with a woman who had nothing to do with politics or power or palace walls. She was ordinary in the best possible way. And to Hamdan, who had grown up surrounded by everything extraordinary, she felt like the most rare thing in the world. He loved her for years. He wrote poems that people all over the world now read and feel deeply. And many of those poems were written for her, about the feeling of loving someone and not knowing if the world would ever let you keep them. Those poems were not just beautiful words. They were letters he could never send, feelings he could never say out loud. Because from the very beginning, Hamdan knew something. He knew that his heart and his duty were never going to point in the same direction. His father, Sheikh Mohammed, is not a man who makes decisions lightly. He is strategic, powerful, and always thinking about the future of Dubai. And the future of Dubai, in his eyes, required his son to make a very specific kind of marriage. Not a love marriage, a royal marriage, a political alliance. A union that would strengthen the family's position and show the world that the Al Maktoum family was united, stable, and unshakable. That woman was Sheikha bint Sayyid Al Thani, Hamdan's first cousin, chosen not by Hamdan's heart but by the needs of a crown. Hamdan did not want it. Everyone around him knew it. He made quiet attempts to stop it. But there are things in this world that are bigger than one man's feelings, even when that man is a prince. The marriage happened in June 2019, and Hamdan walked into it, carrying something he was never allowed to put down. The weight of a love he had left behind, a love he had not chosen to leave, but had been asked to abandon anyway. Life inside that marriage was never what it looked like from the outside. Sheikha is by all accounts a dignified, graceful woman. She came into this marriage with hope, with the belief that maybe, over time, things would grow into something real. But Hamdan's heart was not available. It had never been available. And no matter how hard both of them tried, you cannot manufacture a feeling that was never there to begin with. Then came the moment everything collapsed. Sheikha found out about the other woman. Not rumors, not whispers, the real thing. The woman Hamdan had loved before the marriage. The woman he had never stopped loving during the marriage. The woman whose name lived in his poems even when he never wrote it down. When that truth came into the open, the marriage did not survive it. It could not survive it. And that was when Hamdan left. Not with a speech, not with an explanation. Just gone, quietly. The way people leave when they have already said everything they needed to say in poems that nobody was supposed to understand. He went back to her, the woman he had always loved. He married her privately, away from the public eye. She became his wife. She became the mother of his children. And for the first time in a very long time, Hamdan looked like a man who was breathing properly, like someone who had finally put down a weight he had been carrying for years. The people around him noticed. The sadness in his eyes softened. The poems changed. For a little while, he seemed okay. But the palace always calls you back. After the passing of Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed, everything shifted. The political pressure on the royal family became heavier than it had been in years. Sheikh Mohammed needed his son to be a symbol, not just a man, a symbol of strength, of unity, of stability. And symbols do not get to make personal choices. Symbols are arranged and positioned and presented to the world in whatever form is most useful. So Hamdan was asked, once again, to step back from the life he had chosen and return to the life that had been chosen for him. The woman he loved left Dubai. She took his children with her, and Hamdan stood in the middle of a palace full of people and felt completely alone. He left his wife without saying a word because by the time he left, every word had already been taken from him by duty, by family, by a role he had been born into without ever being asked if he wanted it. His poetry after all of this became heavier than ever, darker, more desperate. He wrote about souls wandering without bodies, about longing for something that felt forever out of reach. He showed up to public events, prayers, ceremonies, official appearances, and the people who watched closely could see it. The smile was there, but the eyes were somewhere else entirely, always somewhere else. This is the truth about why Sheikh Hamdan left his wife without saying a word. It was not cruelty, it was not carelessness. It was a man who had been silenced so many times by expectation, by duty, by the weight of a crown, that he had forgotten how to say the things that actually mattered. A man who expressed everything in poetry because real life never gave him the space to say it plainly. He left because staying would have destroyed both of them. He left because silence was the only honest thing he had left to offer. And somewhere right now,